Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He will have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at Denali's.com.
"25 seconds to curtain, folks."
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Monsky. Paul, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. We have an active chat out here. Been watching things. Woody can't hold it for 8 minutes. Woody, don't. That's that. You'll. As Jim Carrey taught me, that can cause bladder damage.
You'll hurt yourself.
Just go when you can. Yeah, pops, don't encourage him. Don't, it's we don't want the mess. Okay. What up? I'll tell you what's up. We have a campaign here tonight that will be both adventurous and tantalizing, as promised in the advertisements. And of course, if you don't already know it, the Madness Comic Network is becoming the Madness Roku platform. Do follow the link, check out that Kickstarter, and watch what happens as people leave YouTube behind and take what we're doing here to where we can get a much bigger audience. Pops is going to blast this thing off. Mike Walters out here is to like and share and say hi, and we do appreciate that. He's got the show The Mic Stand coming up after ours at 8 o'clock, and where he goes over the comic and anime and wrestling news of the day, just like he did last night with Bleeding Fools articles. So that covers the chat. We've got it out of the way, Paul.
All right. Well, hopefully more stuff will come in the chat.
Oh, more stuff will come in. It's the madness. So it'll come in and it won't make sense. That's just the way it goes. So tell me about yourself. Where do you come into comics at, and why the hell, after seeing it, would you want to make any?
Oh, I've been in comics since I was 6 years old. So I came in like in the early 70s.
Yep, I'm with you.
I became a big fan of AC Comics, FemForce, in the mid 80s. So I've been following that company and that series, and became very friendly with a lot of the people who work for them and that company itself. Bill Black, the former publisher, creator of a lot of AC Comics stuff. And if y'all don't know AC Comics, it's the FemForce comic book, which is the longest running independent superhero comic book. It's been going since 1985. There are over 200 issues, continuously publishing. So they were the original independent comic book company, or at least the only one that's still around when the direct market started. So I became a fan of them, and got to know the publisher, got to know the artists and writers, and ran a fan website for them for a few years, a decade or so, back in the 90s, early 2000s, and got to know a lot of artists who wanted to be published, and then did some writing work for AC and FemForce and some of their other books. And then one of my artists said, well, why don't you make your own characters? So about 20 years ago, I created a bunch of characters. Alina, who is the lead character in this book, was one of them. AC's done a great job of reprinting old Jungle Girl comic books.
Yes.
And they have, actually probably the Jungle Girl with the most comic book appearances ever is AC's Terror of the Jungle, Terror of the Jungle Girl. So I was a fan of AC. I was a fan of Terror of the Jungle. So Jungle Girl comic book. I have my own Jungle Girl character, and I've been writing stories with her for 20 years now. And during the pandemic, I started listening to, YouTube more. Yep. and crowdfunding EVS and your boy Zach and some of those channels, and said, well, this seems like it could be fun. I've already got these stories built up. Some of them had already been drawn, and I said, well, I needed to retire from my day job and really, use this as my chance to have something to do in my retirement. And I like creating stories. I just do it for fun. And I think people are entertained. The artwork, I can guarantee, is excellent, because it's people who really know how to do good girl artwork.
Are you familiar with Heroinberg?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. I
know they're big fans of the FemForce, and they work with those guys too. So
yeah, no, I mean, I talked to him through email and through a Facebook group. Yeah. He's a good guy. I've got some of his comic books too. So
yeah, his comic books are interesting. I like the fact that it's a multimedia joint venture where you've got episodes and then you've got comic books.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no,
You're right.
it's
Day jobs suck.
yep. No, and he's a big Bill Black fan too, so that's kind of I guess how we connected in the first place is
So
because Bill does the same thing. He makes videos with his comic book characters.
I've got to check those out then, because that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. I've seen female superhero video episodes before. They weren't tied to any comic book, and they weren't things you could watch at work. Which you probably shouldn't be watching anything on the internet at work, but these especially not.
Well, these are actually they're PG-13. I mean, there's nothing he and his book Femforce has always been a PG-13 book.
It's amazing what you can do with PG-13 and still be tantalizing.
Exactly, and well, there's a little bit of modesty goes a long way sometimes in terms of stirring the imagination. So, and TV even in the 90s and 80s had implied nudity in prime time. So, you can there's a lot of stuff you can get away with.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the campaign. And folks, the link for this Indiegogo campaign is right below the video. You can click it at any time. It will open in a brand new window. You will not leave the interview. You'll still get to hear everything while you're over there throwing money at this venture and getting your own copy of Tantalizing Adventures. So tell us about who we are looking at here. In fact, before you do that, you've got a video. And
I do.
I couldn't download it for some reason. My YouTube video downloader decided to quit working, so I'm going to play it from here, and we'll just take a look at it here. From Boom Online. That's a link you're going to have to write down and save, because you'll never get as many O's in it as you need, guys.
Usually it's the Vaz that get left out. There's 3 of them.
Yeah, and then a whole bunch of O's. So let me refresh here to set the thing back to where it looks like a campaign page. So that was Alina Aguilar.
Yes, that's my character. Yeah.
And she is, I see some Doc Savage in some of her poses.
It's interesting. The painted cover by Ed Coots, which is the one on the left. My instruction was something like a Doc Savage cover, Bama-esque Doc Savage cover, and that's what he came up with. So
mission
that was
accomplished.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you immediately went to Doc Savage, because that was kind of the intent.
So who is Alina? I mean, the Tarzan mythos, which is of course the icon of the entire jungle character. Abandoned as a baby, raised by apes. Great way to become a jungle. And Mowgli's the same way. What's Alina's story?
This is a little different. She's a botanist, and she's from Chicago, and she's a professor at University of Illinois Chicago, we'll say. But she does a lot of field work in Latin America, looking for rare plants, ferns, etc. So that's how she ends up there. But she's always looking for extra money because she doesn't really make that much. So she's been a location scout. She's been a jungle guide. Just anything she can do to get by. But she also ends up running into lots of trouble along the way. So it's lots of adventure and peril and just interesting situations.
So kind of an Indiana Jones of botany.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you know, she would probably do some cave, cave exploration and things like that. I don't know that she's necessarily looking for Mayan relics, but if it has to do with plants, she would be interested.
Yeah, and this painted this is a pinup, I'm guessing, or a cover.
That's a pinup in the book. It's actually a painting by Brad Gorby, and Femforce fans are familiar with Brad, but he also worked with Bo Smith a lot back in the 90s. So he's had a lot of different characters. He's really an excellent Good Girl artist. But he did, probably 60 issues of Femforce. It's probably the best run of Femforce that exists. Most of them were black and white, though.
Yeah, this is some good stuff. I dig that cat too.
Yeah. No, Brad's excellent.
That's some good stuff. I love some of these painted covers and painted pinups we're seeing. Nice action pose here.
That's actually Rudy Nebres did the pencils for that. I don't know. Rudy was an inker for Buscema on Savage Sword of Conan back in the 70s.
Yeah.
One of the Filipino, like Alcala and some of the others who came over to Zuniga. So he's kind of a legend from his Marvel days. And he agreed to pencil one of the stories. So I'm pretty proud of it. But yeah, that's Rudy Nebres.
Yeah, that's some dynamic stuff there. Now this is interesting because now you got a jungle girl. This is not Alina.
Well, this is Alina talking to the guy down below. But no, that's the story Movie Magic, and that's they're filming a Jungle Girl movie.
Oh, okay.
Alina is the location scout for the movie, but she ends up getting pulled in to do some of the stunts because the Instagram model is a scaredy cat.
Yeah, she's too smart to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, basically.
Very, very nicely drawn here too. But who's the art on this again?
Bobby Ragland did the art for this story. He penciled it, and he's another person who's done some work for Femforce, particularly recently, the last few years.
He's right on there with the musculature lines.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's good.
We have some underwater adventure as well. Those fur bikinis.
Yeah.
They get matted.
This was from Predator and Prey. Rob Jones, who was a apprentice for Dick Giordano before Dick Giordano passed away. I became friendly with Rob 20 years ago, and I had an artist for this who kind of flaked on me, and Rob stepped in and just did a great job on it. So
yeah. I've got an original Batgirl piece by Rob.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So this is like a giant lamprey in the back coming out.
It's an alligator.
An alligator. Oh, okay.
It's an alligator.
You're straight on,
you're looking at it through glass as well, so everything's distorted. Yeah. So.
And of course, she's a botanist, so there will also be dangerous flowers, apparently.
Well, this is kind of our Halloween tale because it should be out by the time Halloween season is rolling around. And Ed Coots, who did the painted cover that looks like James Bama's Doc Savage, he's the artist on this. Ed contributed a lot to the book. He's the primary artist on a couple stories. He's the anchor for stories. So he's kind of my partner for the most part on this book.
Now, this is is this the first time that the title has been used, Tantalizing Adventures, or are you reviving something that you did with AC?
No, this is the first time this title's been used. I had a series of books called Va 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 Voom that I did through Indie Planet 15, 20 years ago, which you could go to indieplanet.com, and it's 1 through 3. But they were in black and white, and I did the lettering. So we got everything colored that was printed there. There's new stuff in this. And but that book had a superheroine story, a pulp detective story, a sci-fi story, kind of a Viking Age story. There was like several different stories in each issue, and over the 3 issues, the stories kind of resolve themselves.
One of the things I love about comics, Paul, is that you take an adventurous, smart, athletic woman, and you drop her in the jungle, and the first thing she does is say, "Let me make myself as exposed and unprotected against nature as possible."
Well, this story actually kind of plays on that trope a little bit, because this isn't by choice.
Okay.
Things keep happening that cause her to lose clothes.
My kind of story. Usually that's a tequila night, but So.
Yeah.
But
No,
these are some great poses here. I mean, this part right here, the jungle girl standing on the great big tree limb that doesn't break as she stands on it, holding a vine.
She's only 100-something pounds. That limb can handle her. It couldn't handle me.
No, me either. I'm like, I'd be on there in that thing, we going, whoa, that's. I'm not being very stealthy up here. The whole tree is shaking. So you got 2 covers. You got the one we talked about, Bad Coats.
Mm-hmm.
Coots.
And then the other one is by Bill Black. So this is, a homage to an old Jungle Comics cover. And
thought it looked familiar.
Yeah, and Bill did me a solid and agreed to do a cover for me, and so I'm pretty psyched about it, because he should be more of a legend in comics than he is. I mean, just for the fact that his company has survived through all of comics ups and downs in the direct market when nobody else's has. I mean, except for DC and Marvel, Archie.
Sure, but they're not. They're
but they're corporations. I mean, this has basically been a 3-man shop in Florida, and
be consistent.
And they have 2 series that went 100 issues. I mean, Femforce has gone 200 issues. They put out books every month. They're reprinting Golden Age stuff that people wouldn't even get to see because it's just so rare and hard to find. So, I mean, what they've done, and almost unnoticed by the industry, is amazing to me that they haven't been noticed more. But so Bill's one of my heroes in comics. So I was really glad that he would do a cover for me.
I like how he drew the character to be interacting with the logo.
Yeah, well, I put the logo in, so I've got the logo interacting with the character.
You played with the whole, hey, let's make it go through the vines here.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
Well done. And wow, she's got legs.
Yeah, and she knows how to use them.
I wasn't going to go there because I'm like, I don't want to say everyone knows. But you're the guest. You do what you want.
Hey, I had a ZZ Top beard at one point.
I'm working on it. But I think, and Pops, I hate to disappoint you, but I think by Thursday this is going to be gone. I have an appointment with a lady with a pair of scissors, and I think I'm going to tell her, you know what, just get rid of this thing.
They get very hard to maintain.
Oh, I know. Plus, it didn't really grow out. It just kind of grew down. I'm like, I'm not sure that's the kind of look I was going for there. And most of it was just because I was lazy, and then it got so long. I'm like, well, let's see how far this sucker can go. And now I'm tired of it.
Got to change it up every now and then.
Yeah. So this is for the fans of the good Jungle Girls, the Good Girl, the pulp. I hear the term all the time, good girl art and bad girl art, and I'm like, what's the difference?
So,
it's all they're usually all heroes.
So bad girl art wouldn't exist if there wasn't good girl art. Good girl art came before, but I don't know if back in the 1940s, some of the comic books were called headlight comics.
Appropriately, yes.
Because, and particularly artists like Matt Baker, Bob
his
Powell,
Phantom Lady stuff.
Yeah, Bob Powell, Bob Lubbers. Those were all considered good girl comic books. Elvgren, Vargas, they painted good girls in pinups.
Yeah,
so
I got a giant Elvgren poster on my wall in a frame.
I've actually done some personal artwork myself digitally that was based on an Elvgren painting. I think Elvgren's great. So even, at the beginning of the 80s, there were a lot of heroes who were in the superhero game not because they'd been hurt or treated badly, or they just like the guys, they wanted to truth, justice, and the American way. They wanted to fight for what's right and put the bad stop the bad guys from doing evil things. And so when you have this kind of curvy artwork and heroines that are not damaged, that's good girl.
They'd be in distress a lot, but they'd come out of it okay.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's kind of what good girl art comic is people who are heroines who are they're just good. They're good people.
Yeah, you'd see these Matt Baker covers. And Matt Baker, an African American artist in the 40s, by the way.
Absolutely.
So don't ever let people tell you that that's a wall. I can see the one that I think because I saw it in Overstreet every single year, where she's just like turned and facing the cover, and she's bound up and she's just pushing everything forward. I'm like,
that's the classic one. Yeah. But I mean, and but all of his, he did South Sea Girl was one of the comic books that he worked on, and same kind of thing. That was a Jungle Girl essentially. So yeah, you have Matt Baker, but there were several. Nick Cardy, who developed Wonder Girl, he used to do good girl art back in the 40s. And Bob Powell, Bob Lubbers. I mean, so there are a lot of good girl artists. There are good girl artists. Nina Albright was a good girl artist. That's a woman back in the 1940s. She worked on Miss Victory, who's one of the first superheroines that was ever published. Then there's other women who worked in the 40s. There's other African Americans who worked in the 40s. It's
trying to think.
It's not new. It's not
Miss
new.
Fury.
Miss Fury, yes.
Miss
Renee,
Fury.
Lily Renee.
Also a female artist working.
Also a female artist, yes. And so, this isn't new. Good girl art's been around for a long, long time. Now, what made Bad Girls different is they tended to have some damage, or they were spawns of Satan, or they had some terrible backstory that they were really hurt, So they were more vengeful and
this is where you got a lot of the Coffin comics stuff, the Lady Death, the Chastity.
Lady Death, exactly. So that would be a Bad Girl comic.
And of course, Catwoman.
Catwoman, yeah. I mean, the artwork is not that much different, but it's more. They're Bad Girls more because of the character motivation, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be the only. That's really the difference I would see, is character motivation.
So we've seen a lot of the interior artwork here by the different artists. You said it's 4 stories.
It's 5 stories.
5 stories.
Five
That's even bigger.
stories. Yeah, The Objective by Rudy Nebres, and Movie Magic, which has Bobby Ragland, Monsters, which Ed Coots drew, Predator and Prey that Rob Jones drew, and Destination Danger, which Ed Coots drew.
Okay. That makes for sounds like a pretty thick issue. What's the page count on
80 pages of stories and over a half dozen pinups, plus some a page or two of commentary.
All right. And this is available, and I didn't see a whole bunch of tiers go by here, which I like. I like not getting too complicated in the.
It's my very first crowdfunder, and I didn't want to overcomplicate things on my end or for anybody else. So
it makes your fulfillment guy very happy.
Yeah, we have a tier for both covers, and I discounted it because I just don't see I can't see making people pay twice the amount for the same book twice. So
it's a good deal. $40 is usually what you would pay for one 80-page comic on crowdfunding.
Well, this is you get both covers for $40. Then each individual, if you wanted them, are $25. So that's for a 92-page book total.
Yeah,
and
great deal.
And then if you want, Ed Coots will draw on the inside of the back cover. He'll put a pencil sketch in there, and that book with sketch is $75. And then if you want it inked, it's $100.
Very nice. So you'd have your original art, and it would be right there in the book. You
would have original art right in the book, exactly.
Is this something where people can say, "Hey, this is what I'd like," or is it just it's going to be the character?
It'll be the character. Basically, it's set up so that it's a half figure drawing of the character.
Sure, there's some samples here of how it would be.
But if they it depends on how many backers that tier gets. If it's something where it's doable, they could certainly, email me and I can talk to Ed and he can give them what they want, as long as it's that character.
Yeah, of course. So are all of these stories complete? And I don't mean are they finished written, but do they have an end when you get to the last panel?
They all have an end at the last panel, but it's open to continue further at the end of the book.
Okay.
So, but each story's an individual story. They loosely tie together. Some of them are more to give you an idea of her, her attitude, her motivations, those kinds of things. But yes, they're all standalone stories that have an end. But the very last story, there are some unresolved issues that you could then go and have more stories based on that.
Okay. Because I knew that, I was thinking of Action Comics Weekly when they did that. That was several stories in that, but each one of them was a little bit of action, cliffhanger, come back next week, more action, cliffhanger, come back next week.
Yeah, this is action and action and action and the last story is action that calls back to a previous story. So
action and satisfaction.
Yes, I like cliffhangers. I'm all for cliffhangers.
Yeah, but with crowdfunding, you want
you got to give people some sense of, oh, that was a good book at the end, instead of, oh, I got to go buy another book to find out what happens.
Yeah, especially if it might take another year.
Exactly.
To get to
it. Things happen, and like I said, they might be called back later on in another story, but the individual stories have an ending.
That's
in which she's, overcomes the odds and defeats the bad guy. I mean, that's basically the stories.
So complete stories, 80 pages, 5 tales.
Yeah.
What more do you need to know, people? I mean, get in here and get your copy of this one.
I think it's a really fun book. I enjoyed writing it. And I love the character. I do some amateur digital artwork on the side, and so some people are familiar with that character already, just from different sites where art is posted. But and they love the character. So she does not get eaten by a cougar. No, she'll survive. She'll survive all manner of beasts and men through the course of the 5 stories, and even some things that aren't beasts or men.
Now, do you have any other characters, and might they show up in this universe, or are you planning other books?
I have other characters. In my mental universe, they all, some of them know each other. I have a superheroine. And I developed her about 20 years ago, and she's called the Ace. Now there's a crowdfunder who has a character called the Ace, so I would never be able to put out a book called the Ace, but I can, she'll have stories at some point under some title. So I have a superhero character. She's actually going to be showing up in G-Man comics from I'm blanking. Well, it's G-Men Comics. I don't know if you know Rick Offenberger, but he has a site, First Comics News, and he worked for Archie, and he's somebody I'm familiar with. But it's
G-Man Comics or G-Men Comics?
G-Men Comics, and so she's going to show up featured in one of they're running a crowdfunder on Kickstarter right now, and she's going to show up in one of their books. But she's actually, I have a story that's 2/3 drawn, book that's probably going to be about 100 pages that she's the featured heroine in. So I like superheroes. I've got a 24-page story with my pulp detective character. It's really designed to be more of a issue by issue kind of character. So I have one issue of 24 pages with her, and I could put that out, but I'm kind of wanting to get more done on that book before I start working more with her. And I have a sci-fi character that I've got a good 32, maybe 40 pages worth of stories already in the can with. So, but they're all lovely heroines who find themselves in predicaments that they need to get out of.
So this being your first crowdfunder, how did you find the experience of setting it up and having to go around doing all this promotion? Because you didn't have to do this in the old indie comics days. Or at least you didn't have it available to you. Maybe you would have if you could have.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of knew that the promotion was going to have to happen because I'd been following and backing so many campaigns over the last few years. And you see that people are out there hustling to try to get their book in front of people. And that's what you got to do. It has been interesting having to go on, find people who would let you promote your book on their show. The kind of production part of it hasn't been too difficult. I helped produce one of AC's FemForce books years ago, so I kind of had that background, and so I have the graphic editing programs. I have, the upload capabilities. I have a Google Drive. I can go back and forth with artists. The production was a fairly easy. Now, I just spent time today with the printer trying to fix an issue that I couldn't understand why, and they eventually got back to me and told me why it wasn't working the way they wanted it to work. So we got it fixed, and I actually have the book off to the printers at this point. But
that's I talked with Carl Kiesel about this because he's been doing a great series with Impossible Jones, and I said, look, you and the artist, you both came out of the big companies. You had to churn one of these out every month, come hell or high water. Like, what's the difference here? Why are we waiting? And he's like, well, it's like, first of all, it's not my 9-to-5 job anymore. It's, I'm doing this in between the 9 to 5. And, secondly, it's, you are the entire comic company now. You've got to do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I spent a lot of time just like shopping printers to figure out, can I get a local printer and avoid having books shipped, and how much money would I save if I avoided getting them shipped? But then the local printer costs more than state printer, so ended up being better to just go ahead and pay for the shipping. And
they usually have deals with a shipper that makes it cheap. So
yeah, so
all the time.
But yeah, I uploaded CMYK TIFFs, and they would have preferred it to have been PDFs.
Yeah.
So, but they worked with that, but the spine didn't work quite right. So then they had to convert it to a PDF themselves. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, thank you for taking care of that.
Yeah. Well, they're used to working with a lot of indie people now more than ever, I think. So they fix things because they want you to succeed, because they want you to come back and print another issue and another issue. And by the way, folks, if for any reason you're looking to say, man, this is great, I want this, but darn it, it's on Indiegogo, and Indiegogo is against my religion, or I don't like pink and green. You can also get this on Fund My Comic.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I actually put it on Fund My Comic first. I really I want to support that site. I like the idea of it.
I do too. And by the way, Paul will get more of your money if you buy it through Fund My Comic than if you buy it through Indiegogo. But it's a flexible goal, so it's not like if you go to Fund My Comic, he won't fund on Indiegogo. He's fulfilling either way.
I'm fulfilling either way. Yeah. No, so, and I'll probably leave it in demand on Indiegogo. I've got it up as a continuous campaign on Fund My Comic. So, we'll see ultimately when it comes down, but I'm going forward one way or the other. I've put out books before that I made absolutely no money on. I lost money on them because by the time I paid the artist, by the time I paid to get them printed, the amount of money you actually make selling a $5 comic book is not going to get you your money back. So
as a publisher myself, I spend way more money paying the authors and the printer, and way more than I'll ever make back on projects.
Yeah, and I tell my wife, I'm like, I could be a car guy, and we'd be talking a lot more money than making comic books.
Yeah, I could be buying hot rod parts that sit in the garage.
Exactly. So,
Woody says there's no such thing as cyan nor magenta. I've seen those colors. I know they exist. They're out there. And of course, we talked about Mike Walters, the mic stand, earlier in the show. It is about that time. So in the next 14 minutes, when we're done here, do pop over and hit the mic stand for everything in niche news tonight. And give it a like and a subscribe. You'll grow to like Mike's content there. He's been plugging away at that show every night, Monday through Friday and Sunday for years now. So it's time for that show to break out and get some growth, for which we need you. So.
Sounds good.
Paul, is there anything about this that I didn't touch on that you've been just dying to talk about?
Well, we talked about a little bit about Good Girl art. That's something Heroinberg had said maybe I should explain. So I'm glad we got to talk about that. Just the artwork is worth the price of the book. I mean, even if my stories are horrible, I've seen the artwork. It's really, it's top notch, all up and down. And even, some of the guys who are doing pinups are, these are industry professionals who are kind of known for how well they draw the female form. So, I think, like I said, if it's not just that it's Jungle Girls, this is a throwback to old-fashioned comic book storytelling. There's not any sitting around talking about stuff.
Not having coffee in the jungle.
There is one scene where she has coffee in the jungle.
No.
It leads to a big problem for her. So, I mean, and I think it's like 3 panels before it turns around and goes bad. It's
Well, she's in South America. It's a coffee plantation. Maybe she's got to sample the product.
Well, we'll buy the book and you'll find out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one problem I have is how much to give away about what each story is about.
Yeah, I hear you.
It was hard even, well, I'm picking sample pages and I'm like, I don't know, that's just, it's just going to give away too much. I can't use that page, so part of, it's how much to give away and leave people still like interested in seeing it. I don't want to be like a movie trailer where all the best scenes are in the trailer and you don't really have to go see the movie.
Yeah, we got a mini movie right there. Everything else is just expanding on it. So
yeah.
So get the book, people. And I'm gonna refresh it one more time. Let me scroll to the top. Need to get a drum roll sound effect going here, but let's give this a reload and see, did anybody get in here and help us out tonight? No. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, maybe on viewing later, people will.
We do get a lot of after views. The people come in, don't do it live. They come in and watch it at their own speed. They skip around stuff. And if you've got to this point, folks, coming in later, again, the link is right below the video. Just click there. And $25 for an 80-page book, $40 for both covers, and a little bit extra to get some original artwork in the back. Not a bad deal. And, not a whole lot of confusion about how to build your package. Very straightforward. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, Paul, thank you so much for reaching out to us and coming on the show.
Well, thank you.
It's been a pleasure talking with you about your characters and, the history of Good Girl Art and AC Comics and FemForce and all that fun stuff that takes me back to when I was just a wee lad.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I talk about being in since 6 years old. I was reading them at 4 years old. I was reading in kindergarten and nobody knew it. No one knew I could read, and I didn't tell anybody because I just assumed everybody could. So I got found out in first grade, and it was not fun after that because they expected more out of me.
Well, comic books, I mean, that's how I think a lot of kids learned to read back when I was a kid. It's just, I think Flash was battling Captain Cold in the first comic book I ever picked up. And then some of those Mike Sekowsky Wonder Womans, where she was in the all-white jumpsuit.
Oh, I remember those, yes.
I remember those. And then, of course, when the Linda Carter TV series came on, it was all over for me. At that point, I was very into superheroes.
My first was a Superman comic. I want to say 218 or 232. But I remember he was grabbing onto the U and his logo and crushing it in his hand as he was being stretched through the earth. Protectors of Earth Incorporated.
Oh, wow. Yeah, awesome.
Classic cover.
Yep.
Anyway, folks in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We do appreciate you being here. We don't have a show if you don't show up. So, we need you. And we're grateful that you showed up and did that. Please, I'm going to say like and subscribe and share. I don't care if you like or subscribe. That's not for me, but do share. Share the video so that your friends can see what Paul's doing and decide for themselves that they would like to throw some money at this. It's all about the guests, all about the comics, and all about you guys. So we're glad you were here again. And while you were here, as always, I just hope you had a blast.
Absolutely.